is
Hello,
up, Mark?
hello. How are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
Oh my God. I don't know. I don't know where to start.
How's your week been, man? You sound like you've been very busy.
Absolutely. I mean, I came home half an hour ago, maybe, or
Wow,
35
okay.
minutes or whatever, and quickly, get a little bit of water because that's all what I can afford at the moment. I
I had
just
to get
forgot.
something a
Yeah,
little
it
bit
looks like
stronger
water
than
as
water.
well. What you have? This is pure vodka.
Absolutely. So I thought since last time we had our catch up, when we were actually in person together at my place, we had an after dark chat. So I thought that went quite well last time. So I thought, why not we give that another chance and just
Yeah, why not?
have just a general weekly catch up, and we can just talk about whatever we like. Really, how does that sound?
Yeah, perfect. Whatever. Yeah. Let's talk about whatever. You know what I mean? I don't mind. Doesn't need to be. I should be probably technical related, but doesn't need to be. So I don't
No, that's
know.
cool, man. One thing actually, because I have intentionally not been asking you so many questions offline, because I thought, okay, let's save it for our conversation when we catch up. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about is the new LG TVs this year. What are your thoughts? I know you've got your G4, I've got my G4, and I'm like tossing and turning. Should I spend that money, waste my money, upgrade? Like, what are your thoughts on the new TVs, man? Like, where are you at?
I don't know. The problem is always, I like to try the latest stuff, and that's my problem. That's we're nerds. We like to have the latest things. Even look, we're talking about 2500 nits, 2600 nits maximum peak brightness, but what is this really in real life? Is it like a day and night difference? No, it's not. It's an improvement. It's really, I need to see the full package, before I really can decide. And first of all, I wouldn't buy it when it's released. It's just too expensive then. That's my thing. I wouldn't spend that money because, again, I paid half the price, even less than half, for my G4.
So what's your thought on the technology stack? Because I know when we were catching up in our last live stream with Ariel, I was saying how the G4 has been very competitive in 2024. Quite often we had a lot of people who really know their stuff were saying they would often choose the G4. So now we have the G5, which is even better. Its color reproduction is even better. And I'm saying, well, why wouldn't people now even more so go for the G5? And furthermore, QD-OLED is such a better technology, but LG's WOLEDs continue to match them, or not in color reproduction, but it tends to be a choice for a lot of people over a QD-OLED panel, which really blows my mind.
Yeah. First of all, size, of course. There is still no. Well, what's the biggest size what you can get QD-OLED? I don't know. Anyway, but that's one of the reasons. And then, of course, the reliability. In terms of that kind of stuff. When it comes to that, I prefer LG over Samsung. Then you have the One Connect box, which is not a good thing, or not the best thing. So I mean,
I've
LG.
had a lot of trouble with that, but go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, the whole package from LG is just better. Considering the whole package, of course. QD-OLED is better, but there are not many cases or games or movies, especially not movies, where you need QD-OLED. Honestly, you will not miss it out, my opinion.
It's interesting because a lot of the people that I have spoken to about QD-OLEDs offline, they all generally say the same thing, that the QD-OLED is a much better gaming TV just due to the color reproduction, but for everything else, there's not much of that big of a difference. Do you have many thoughts on that?
Samsung's Game Motion Plus is pretty good, much better than what LG is offering. But again, is this something? I mean, if you just play on your TV, maybe that's your decision point. Maybe. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with my LG TVs, and I'm pretty happy with my Samsung TV. So
you're happy with your Samsung TVs as well?
I'm happy. I mean, I have just I have two Samsung TVs, a very old LCD TV where I just actually more or less finished my editing, and I'm comparing this very old 8-year-old LCD TV to my G4, which is crazy. It's very interesting. But wait for the result. It's actually it's really interesting SDR wise. You know what I mean? It's not a day and night difference. That's what I can tell you. It is a difference, but not that I would say throw the LCD in the bin. You know what I mean? But anyway, but the other TV, you know, the S95C, I'm happy. I mean, there's no issue at all. The only issue what I have was really with the One Connect box and the HDMI connections. But since
what was the issue in particular with the One Connect?
Because as soon you use cables which, let's say, 3-meter copper HDMI cables, which are perfectly working on this TV or any LG OLED TV, never had any issues, but you have dropouts on the Samsung on a regular basis. It was unplayable, unusable. So I'm using now fiber HDMI cable, and even with a 15-meter fiber optical cable, no issues whatsoever.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I remember telling you with my 8K Neo QLED I had, that was driving me nuts for almost 2 years, where anytime I was playing games, I would just have HDMI dropouts. Can you imagine playing Call of Duty and it's just the picture just disappears? And I was like going off at my receiver, Yamaha. I was calling them saying this brand new HDMI 2.1 receiver is faulty. I need a new firmware. As soon as that TV went and the LG came in,
no issues.
Same cables, same everything, no problem. So I'm very anti that One Connect box just from my experience.
There are a couple of things where I prefer, especially, I mean, usually we are not the typical end user, you know, because what I'm doing, I'm changing consoles like crazy for testing, you know, connecting the Xbox, connecting this and this and this. And the LG is just straightforward. It always remembers the last setting for this console, but not my Samsung. My Samsung is absolutely stupid and starts always from new, which is it's annoying. Not a typical user issue, you know, because you connect this once and that's it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's annoying. But anyway. Hey, Dan.
I've always said, hey, Dan.
Hey,
everyone who's joining us. Yeah. So this is our informal pub chat tonight. We're just catching up. We're just talking. We're just answering questions. But that's one thing I've always said. LG's HDMI CEC implementation is just so spot on. Like, so my TV plugs into my receiver, and then my receiver has a Xbox, a PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, Pay TV, Apple TV, and no matter which one I turn on, the LG will identify. Okay, it will identify the actual device down the chain, not just the receiver. It's they've just nailed it. But here's a comment from Dan. That's for you, Marcus.
Important to note, the QD OLEDs have a way worse contrast than WRGBs in the lit room. I mean, look, I wouldn't. I mean, if you, I wouldn't avoid watching TVs or playing games in a lit room anyway, regardless of what TV you're using. You know what I mean? And I mean, look, I get it. So in terms of, but I still have to say, you know what I mean? When we're comparing panel reflections or coding, then still my G2, which I still have in my living room now, it has the best screen coding from all the TVs I have right now, from my S95C and the G4. They are both not as good. Just talking about the screen coding, okay, not about the pure picture quality, which of course is better on the G4 and S95C compared to the G2. But still, I mean, hey, we talk about the G2. If you're asking me, should I upgrade from the G2 to the G5? I don't know. If you have the money, go for it. It's get even worse when you ask now, hey, G4 to G5. Oh my God, I don't know.
Yeah, I've had to stop myself because I'm so tempted. But the only thing that will tip me over the edge, I currently have my G4 83-inch for sale online. I've listed it at what I believe is a fair price. If someone buys it, I will then upgrade. If they don't, no problem. Very happy with that TV. I will continue to have that TV for a couple of years. But Dan further said Samsung's quality control is just criminal. Since Adam has the money, I don't know where you got that from, man, but I'd recommend the Sony QD OLED over a Samsung. So in terms of the Sony QD OLED, the one thing I don't particularly like about Sony's is they seem to be the least gamer friendly in terms of features and functions. Like, they've always been late to the party with VRR. I remember when they were implementing things, they only have 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, and they are more focused on like just movie content playback rather than games. And they're very good at that. And if that is your primary thing and you're not a gamer, Sony all day.
Yeah, that's also my recommendation always. Sony, if you're purely a film, movie watcher, whatever. But for gaming, I don't know. They're never on my table, never ever in my recommendations, actually, because I don't know why. I mean, I never owned a Sony TV. I mean, I have to say this, but all the stories what I heard, or you're right, HDMI VRR too late, or the input lag, and stuff like that. And then just two HDMI 2.1 ports, and one of them is eARC, and that's not a.
See, for me, that's actually something I like. I want a HDMI 2.1 port to be an eARC, because when you have a receiver, and that's a 2.1 receiver like I do, you want to be able to have everything on that one lane. So it's a very, in my mind,
No, you're right. It has to be 2.1.
Yes,
but
if you have 4 ports,
yeah.
it just gives you more flexibility. But
Yeah.
for someone who doesn't have a receiver, then yeah, it can be a problem. So it's a choice someone has to make now.
Yeah. So Starfox is saying 8:35 in good old Germany. Moin. Evening here. Moin.
Prost.
Yeah. Prost. Yeah, Prost. It's just water today. Really, I didn't go to the bottle shop, and anyway.
Oh man,
it's fine.
I had a big week, brother. Got some nice
fine.
Japanese whiskey. Got a lovely cigar.
My wife bought bourbon or whatever she bought, and I'm not allowed to open it. I don't know why. She said, no, that's for special occasions. That's a special occasion today.
Live
it's
stream,
Wednesday.
Man. Live stream, yeah, absolutely.
Say, okay, absolutely. Having water. You know what? That's it. I'm sleeping on the couch.
AX Sorero.
Hey guys,
I'm sorry, man, if I butchered that. Hey, good. Thank you for joining us. So, yeah, I guess leading back to that question. So, are you at all tempted to buy the G5, or is that something that you've actually considered, or how do you feel?
No, actually not. Honestly, not. And the reason is just because it's not that I would love to, but I spent just lately so much money on other stuff like Apple, and you need to control this a little bit. You can't just spend. You know what I mean? And the thing is, I have the G4, so there's almost no reason to upgrade to the G5. Sorry, but maybe let's see what the other thing is. The G5 is the first of its kind. Okay, so it's I wouldn't say it's a prototype, but yeah, nowadays most likely it's a prototype to see how it works. So the G6 is most likely the better choice anyway to wait.
Well, obviously, every year they're going to do their improvements. But yeah, I'm also a big advocate for that, to just, when a first generation tech comes out, to maybe, if you can, like even with cars, anything, hold off, wait for the next model to come out, next version, iteration, see if they've made any minor improvements. You look at the first generations of QD OLED, the way they laid out the pixel structure, it was no good for PCs displaying text, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
But so they've obviously fixed that in the further generations.
But this hasn't changed. The pixel structure layout is still the same, huh?
What was the adjustment they made then? I thought it was the pixel structure. There was something they changed to make text more defined and legible, because I remember it was blurry on the first iterations.
Honestly, I don't know. Honestly, okay. I mean, look, but you're right. I mean, they're always improving things. And the thing is, the first QD OLED was terrible in terms of accuracy. It was terrible, you know what I mean? And then they budget it with firmware updates, you know what I mean? So they learned from their mistakes. So the S95C, in my opinion, is just really, really good. After that, they went down again with the coding because they made it actually worse. I'm not sure why. I don't understand why they're using. I really. Why are they using this matte
finish? Yeah,
matte finish. Yeah. I don't understand this. I really don't get it.
In my mind, there's 3 things that are holding me back from Samsung. The first one is the matte finish. The second one is the One Connect box, and I just forgot the third one. No, what was it? That's right, the panel size, because they don't offer an 83-inch form factor. So for me, the difficult thing is, it's like I would challenge, I guess, a lot of people to say, once you go up to a certain size, it's very difficult to go backwards. You know what I mean? And I would say most people that have purchased the same size once or twice in a row, they generally, if not the second time, the third time, they will go up a size. if that makes sense, unless they're restricted by their room size or there's other factors involved. But
Yeah, of
Dan
course,
just
yeah.
said they changed the pixel structure on the QD OLED monitors, not the TV. I think that's right. Maybe I
Okay.
was getting them confused. So yeah, that sounds about right. So this one's for you, Marcus.
Currently, the only gaming features Sony TVs lacks are low latency motion interpolation, which LG also lacks, and support for refresh rates above 120 hertz. Yeah, I mean, yes,
But they were
not lacking
always
this
late to the
anymore.
party with
Yeah,
everything, though.
that's the thing. You know, that's why I never considered actually Sony TVs, because when we were talking about VRR on consoles, you know, we had this on all TVs but Sony.
That's right. That's right. And I remember
And
there was a TV that came out and they promised there was VRR coming and it took forever. And then when it came, it was a mess. I can't
it
remember
was
which
not working
TV.
properly. Yeah, but I mean, this is done. But still, you know, it's not a good picture for Sony. You know, I mean, we're talking about PlayStation, Sony, PlayStation. I know it's two different departments, completely different.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
But yeah, but you would think they're actually trying to push their whole company with, you know, together, something like that. But I know.
Just Alex.
Hey, just
Nay,
Alex.
thank you for joining us. So, okay. So the G5 is not an option. It's never been considered, right? You're happy
Not
with
at
your
the
G4.
moment, no. But you never know. You never know. So it can come up, you know, with absolutely fantastic and whatsoever, and then different story.
Just for the chat, if anyone has any comments or questions, as I said, tonight is just an informal catch up with Marcus and I. We're just going to have questions. We're just going to talk. We're just going to, basically, it's just Marcus and I catching up, and people get to join in if they want. But my next question was, so these are questions you may not know the answers to, so I apologize if I put you on the spot. So Samsung's gone the Q90, was it the D, but they've missed the E and went to F. Why?
Was there something that it was maybe too close to pronunciation with D, S, D, E, E, F? That's why they did it. I heard about something like that, this was the marketing decision, because it sounds very similar to D, E, you know, which maybe that's the case. Silly,
Okay.
but
That's very interesting if they have done that. It's just a shame because from everyone, as I said, I've always said I haven't had hands-on time with a QD OLED. It's something that's on my radar. I was considering purchasing one, just a 55-inch example, just for the studio here, just so I can have something to kind of bit of hands-on time, if that makes sense, because it just seems like it's just all the rage. Everyone is just saying QD OLED, and you keep saying game motion plus. I'm a big gamer, so I need to try these features. But with your G4 and the QD OLED, you still prefer your QD OLED, or is the G4 competitive?
So the G4 is absolutely competitive. There's no doubt about that. You know what I mean? Because I love the picture, but honestly, I have to say I haven't had much time to use the S95C lately. That's the other thing. But gaming, if I would game just for fun and not for testing, I'm using the S95C because of Game Motion Plus, and I'm using Hope for a stable 60 FPS games because. I mean, I get this. You can use True Motion on the LG OLED TVs, but it's just not the same, and it's increasing the input lag. You can feel this. You know what I mean? And Game Motion Plus is just it's a day and night difference, in my opinion.
Interesting. I'm just going to say Aero because I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry, my friend. If the G5 had some analysis tools like a built-in waveform and other stats about the display image, I would bet Marcus would have already pre-ordered it. And now thinking of it, it would be an awesome feature. Comments, Marcus?
Of course, I would have hoped to have a prototype already. But yeah, now that's something, you know, that's really crazy because I mean they can do kind of stuff like that because at the end it's just software. You know, it's just software. There's no additional hardware needed.
What frustrates me, Marcus, is that every year I feel like they're just giving us a little bit to kind of get us excited. You know, gone are the days where I think I mentioned this in the last live stream. You could go and buy a TV, and as technology improves, that TV still has headroom for you, if that makes sense. Say they released a G6 with 240 hertz refresh rate. You know what I mean? And then as consoles improve next gen and they go to whatever next evolution they can get up to, that TV is still good. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
feel like TVs have become so disposable now because within 1 to 2 years, any technology improvement, if you want to enjoy that, you have to basically sell your whole display and upgrade. And the amount of friends and people I know that have PS5s or Series X's and don't have 120 FPS TVs, Hertz TVs, is
Yeah.
insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's still we're very fortunate to have these displays that even do this refresh rate, and I just feel like they're just giving us enough to keep us going every
I
year.
mean,
It's
I, I'm
frustrating.
I'm happy it's just every year, because if it's
Mm,
up to the companies, they would try to do this every month. You know what I mean? Because they just want to sell. They don't care about you. That's my honest belief. I don't believe in the goods of companies, but why? Why would they do that? But I mean, usually I would say if you go for a new console generation and you get a TV for this console generation, you're set for 5-6 years. For this console generation. I don't know what
yeah,
PlayStation 6 or a new Xbox, if ever comes, what this will bring if we have more than 120 hertz. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't see a benefit, actually, because we're not benefiting from console having more than 120 hertz anyway. So, but
yeah.
I get your point. You know what I mean? But so,
Well, it's
yeah,
interesting because the fact that even TV displays have started going beyond 120 hertz, that obviously implies that some people are now, or a lot of people are plugging their PCs in, or it's just another little marketing gimmick to say, hey, we've given you at least an improvement. Because I don't know if I would dare say the vast majority of people buying large screen TVs, I'm talking 65 and above, would not be plugging PCs in there. I'm saying the majority of
yeah,
people in the world that are buying these TVs. I could be wrong. Happy to see that, but do you know what I mean? So by giving us little refresh rate improvements, if all we have to plug in there is PS5s and Series X's, then what's the point? Do
yeah,
you know what I
correct.
mean?
I,
Then they
I I
can
fully
charge us
agree,
full price.
because not many people putting a big PC in the living room.
Mm,
That's the thing. Xbox, PlayStation is supposed to be in the living room. That's a different
mm.
story. So the TVs are more than enough for those consoles. Yeah. Yeah, this is a good comment, actually, of incremental improvements. Now that Marcus has an M chip, Mac. Oh my God, here that MacBook in use, it's fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, I would still need a PC, but not in terms of work-related stuff. Absolutely not. But you would need a PC, of course, if you like to play the latest games, because that's MacBook. I didn't buy a MacBook for playing games. No, not at all. If you would do this, you're a fool. You're stupid. You know.
Yeah.
But
It-
yeah,
let me jump in there because he made a very interesting point. So the people with the M1 MacBook still don't feel a need to upgrade, and that's a very interesting point. And I think Apple actually outdone themselves with the M1, and they've actually slowed down people's upgrade cycles. So for me, back in I think it was 2021, my wife and I both purchased the MacBook M1 Ultra. I think it was fully specced out. I think it was 32 or 64 gigs of RAM. Upgraded the SSD. Man, that thing today still has never. I've never used that machine and gone, it's getting close to an upgrade. I still do all my Adobe Premiere Pro on it. I can do like dozens and dozens of web browsing tabs and still have multiple desktops. That machine is nowhere near
yeah,
near the time of upgrading. And so when you purchase yours, I was saying to you, man, now that you've specced it well, I'd give it 5 years before you'll even think about, or you'll have a moment where you're like, it's getting a bit slow. Like you are going to be so
yeah,
happy with that
correct. Because
machine.
I mean, yeah, no, that's what I hope for, because you
Mm,
spend a lot of money for this, but that's the
not
plan
cheap.
anyway.
Mm,
You're not buying stuff like that just for a year or whatever. I mean, not me. I can't do that.
mm,
But I have to say, I'm again. I said this. I wasn't a big. I wouldn't say so. I'm not a big company fan or fanboy anyway. Because why would be I Sony fan or Xbox fan? I just enjoy their products. If a product is good, then it's good. But I was never into Apple, because they're just too expensive, and I was never I never feel the need to have one, you know. But then,
Mm.
of course, you know, you go into a little bit more editing stuff and more YouTube, and you decide, okay, I have to
It's
do this in the future and whatever. So let's just give it a try. And you need a new laptop anyway, so just spend more money than you would do, get
That's right.
something proper for a couple of years, and I don't regret the decision at all. Not at
Man,
all.
the form factor, the hardware, the display, the trackpad, the scrolling, all these
Bloody
little things.
display. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, very nice,
Looking
hey?
at this right now, this is just, you know, that's the glossy screen, you know, and
Mm.
the guy in the shop or whatever, get the matte screen and whatever, you know what I mean? I said, no, 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 no,
No.
no, this is what I like.
Yeah. Even just
Yep.
little touches, like when you do the two-finger scrolling up and down on the trackpad, just the way it's smooth, like, even though Windows has their own implementation of it, I don't find, like, with Mac, you can kind of flick and it has this natural kind of momentum, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It flicks and it scrolls. They just have all these little things nailed down so well. It's just such a good piece of hardware. But Dan also says Apple's hardware is so good that they have the opposite problem. Nobody feels like they need to buy the newer stuff. And
yeah,
yeah, you know, and when you were here, I just purchased the new Mac Mini M4. Man, I got that for a very good price, under 1,000 Australian dollars, not the base model. I've just hooked it up. I'm sitting here on it now, 49-inch ultra wide. Man, this thing does everything
yeah.
I could imagine. It is so good. Like, they're just absolutely great pieces of tech. But just another comment I want to get to it. Low to High said 240 hertz large display is the next major jump, in my opinion. And while that would be absolutely great, and I think if they brought out, say, a G6 with a 240 hertz display, maybe a lot of PC players would go, okay, with my brand new shiny 5090, I might get a 65 or a 77 inch because it can actually provide the refresh rate that I need. But judging by the past experience, man, I just don't see it happening. But what
Yeah.
really got me thinking is, if you go back far enough, like we were discussing Sony and their HDMI 2.1 issues, you look at LG. So back from the C10 or CX was the 2020 TV. So the C9, I don't know about the C8, but I remember the C9. So that's back in 2019, came out with 4 full bandwidth HDMI 2.1 ports. And since then, a lot of companies are still doing 2, or they can't get it right, which just blows my mind. Why is there such a problem getting this up and running?
I don't know, but maybe they're also thinking, if you have a high-end TV like that, you have an AV receiver. I don't know, and you plug everything in there. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that's I would do the same, you know. If I have an HDMI 2.1 AV receiver with 6, 7, 8 inputs, why would I plug it into the TV? Doesn't make sense. Then you just need exactly one. But
not a lot of people I know have
no.
full-blown receivers. They are expensive pieces of kit. But here's a comment for you, Marcus. Packley said, and TVs that have backlight strobing features are good for now. Do you know what he's referring to? Possibly something earlier we were discussing?
No. TVs that have backlight strobing features are good for now. No, actually, not really.
LCD TVs?
I'm not sure. Maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit. I'm not quite sure.
Bandar Asuri.
Hey, how are you,
How you
buddy?
doing, my friend? So there's a rumor that the next Xbox will be based on Windows and will have a Steam store. What do you think of this step if it happens? Now, Marcus, I'll let you answer it, but I know Ariel would be very happy about this.
I mean, why not? I mean, honestly, why not? I mean, as long, my concern is, you know, so it sounds like you just play Steam games, you know what I mean? Because it's a Windows machine, you know? So the only concern what I have is that what preset you're using to play those PC games, because at the end, it's not a console game anymore, it's the PC version. So can you choose all the, because this is what I think consoles are made for. You put the game in, you start the game, you choose a performance mode or a quality mode, and then you play, and you don't bother with settings. I don't want to do this, you know. I come home, I just want to play. I don't want to play with settings to find the best way to play this game, you know. So that's my only concern. But other than that, why not?
Yeah, my I have a different kind of thought on this. I don't know if Microsoft will bring out a next Xbox. I really hope they do. I'm very cautiously optimistic about it. I did see those leaks where there were some images leaked where there was a Steam button and they removed it very quickly. I think that's a really good move. Obviously, the Xbox operating system is based on a Windows kernel, so we all know that. So, it's Microsoft, man. That's what they do. They develop software. So I'm sure they would be able to retrofit some PC games to the existing series platforms because basically they're PCs anyway. You know what I mean? They're using a PC graphics chip, same CPU, same architecture. So the only thing that's holding them back, it is a little bit old now, but I would very much like to see Microsoft come through with the next one. And just quickly jumping off the back of something we said before, I did see some rumors this week. I don't know how true they are, that they were saying the Nintendo Switch 2 may have a 120 hertz docked mode. I find that very hard to believe, but would be amazing if it was true.
Yeah.
Here's the next one for you, Marcus.
Only thing I say, I hope Marcus didn't go for anything above the base M4 chip, since it seems like it's not all worth it unless you do some heavy times. I did. I went for the M4 Max. I went for the absolute maximum. And the reason is very simple, because I like to keep this for a long time, and I don't want to have any compromises. And yes, I'm doing a lot of all my editing stuff, all my stuff, or even SDR recording in the future will happen on the MacBook. So I don't want to have any compromises. And what I have to say is, I did my research, of course, and my question was, do I really need this? Answer is no. Do I really want this? Yes. That's the thing. And I compared. Everything. I have here. You can't see it, but here's my 7950 X3D. Okay, the AM5 chip, CPU, 16 core. And this MacBook Pro is in single core, much faster. Of course, in the multi-thread, not because we're just talking about 14 cores versus 16 and in total 32 hyper threads. Okay, so of course it's faster there. But if this Apple MacBook or whatever, or if I would go for Mac Studio, where we're talking about 36 cores or whatever, this bloody CPU doesn't see any land anymore. That's unbelievable. We're talking about a laptop, 16-inch laptop, which I can take everywhere. And it is almost as fast in multi-thread as my 7950 X3D whole PC.
It's crazy.
Of course, GPU is a different story because I have a 4080. I mean, but even that, when you do your tests or whatever, this GPU inside is around 25% faster than my 3070 in this PC here on this desktop. Okay, around 25% faster than a 3070. Okay, in a laptop. Okay, I know we have 4090 laptops, but hey, then you pay also a lot of money. And
it's interesting you say that. Go on, sorry, go on.
The fan never runs. The fan runs when I do Cinebench testing. 10 minutes, then the fan starts.
And the only time my fan runs is when I'm exporting a video in Premiere Pro.
That's quality.
That's it. Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because my MacBook M1 Pro that I had, I basically since 2021 up until about 2 months ago when I got my Mac Mini M4, that was my primary desktop. I just had a USB-C hub where I'd plug one cable into it. The cable provided power. It did all my I/O. It did HDMI out through one port. So it was like basically I would just plug in a USB-C desktop, unplug the USB-C, fully charged, you just walk away. And I'm like, man.
That's what is happening here. Everything is on my dock. Literally everything is on my dock, and just one USB-C goes into the MacBook. Amazing. And this is just fantastic. And I was even considering to remove all this desktop crap because I don't need it anymore. But then my little one would be very sad because he can't play Fortnite anymore because he's not allowed to play here. For several reasons.
So Packley said backlight strobing is the black flame insertion equivalent for LCDs. That's what I thought he was getting at.
Okay. Yeah, I have not much experience with that because I'm not a big fan actually of that. I can see the flickering and the stuff, and I don't like that the picture gets so dim. But I tried it on my G4 because picture brightness is much higher with this TV, and it's absolutely fantastic for movement or you know what I mean. It's so sharp, but still it's not usable for me. Unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah, most of us are on the OLED side now, so we don't get much hands-on time with gaming high-end LCDs.
No, and
But
I wouldn't go back. I'm
yeah.
not going back to LCD anyway.
So Dan says
That's
Windows operating system is an abomination and will absolutely ruin the console experience. Hopefully, it can
yeah.
still run Xbox games. And again, circling back to this, I just don't know where Microsoft goes from here. Even though I'm a big Microsoft supporter, I'm not one of those people that Microsoft is better, PlayStation is worse. I actually think they're pretty much the same in terms of raw performance. There's not much of a big difference, in my opinion. Obviously, PlayStation is more successful, and I will admit it has a lot better, many more better first party titles, which is obviously software is what's winning the game for them. I think with Marcus and I have discussed this before. If Xbox disappears, all we have is Sony in terms of like hardcore console gaming, and
correct.
that means
Because Nintendo doesn't count.
and the monopoly will just go too far. Prices will increase. They'll start selling digital-only consoles. You got to pay premium for digital games.
That's anyway the next console is digital only with an additional disk drive as PlayStation 5 Pro. This will happen for sure. And then PlayStation 7 is completely disc-free. I'm pretty sure about that.
If there's no option, if there's no competitor with Microsoft, I would tend to agree. I think they have no reason to provide any more of that.
Not even that doesn't, even you have Microsoft, but they're talking to each other and they know what the agenda is. You know what I mean? You don't think that Sony and Microsoft is not talking to each other what the next console generation should deliver in terms of performance and stuff like that? Because you don't think we would have such a there's almost no difference in terms of hardware power between base PlayStation 5 and Xbox. I mean, you know what I mean? In terms, look at the games; they're performing on a very same level. You really think that's a coincidence? No.
Yeah, it's for me. I definitely think there's some truth to your comment in terms of like, do you really feel, or do I really feel that they are actually talking to each other, saying like, this is the level we're going at, this is the level they're going to go at. I'm sure they know whether they are telling each other openly or it's being leaked to each other. But as I said in the last live stream,
not saying that they talk, but I'm pretty sure, because they're both. I even wouldn't be surprised if they're not talking openly about that, because at the end, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. But let's talk about Windows. I hate Windows. I hate Windows because it's first of all it's so unreliable. I don't know how many problems I have actually with Windows and with keeping my settings where they are. So for an example, this was my recording PC. Now I'm using, of course, MacBook, but this is connected in my network with this one. Okay, so that means I'm recording here and I have my files also available on this PC per network. And somehow feature update and my network was gone and I couldn't get it done. I even reinstalled Windows because I need this feature. And it was just done. And then I just gave up and I put a SSD in and, plug and play, copy and paste and stuff like that. And I just all good. And after another feature update, I said, hey, let's try it again. And hey, it's working again. Hey, I was like, are you kidding me? I hope this is not happening with MacBook because I don't have time for this anymore. I don't want to waste my time. You turn on your computer and then software update. And now why I can't use HEVC files anymore? What's going on? Oh, because I need to reinstall this. What? Really? Oh, my God. No, annoying.
So Dan made a comment, oh, you got the Max. That's crazy. If you look at the benchmarks, you'll see that the improvements are relatively negligible. I'd return it for a base M4 if I were you. Plenty powerful for video editing. No, man, I disagree with that. I think Marcus is on point. Me personally, if I'm buying a machine that I want to last 5 years, I don't mind paying for that top product, knowing that I've got the best.
But it's always the same with everything. You like to have a little bit more, you pay much more money. That's with everything. But in this case, no, I decided to go. It's not the fastest or the latest one, because there would be even one top, one more, but I decided to, that's really you don't need this.
Mm.
But I'm not regretting it. And honestly, I'm looking even on at the MacBook Studio at the moment. I just fucking hell, it's just, this is just, but hey, be careful.
Yes. So Bandar Asri, regarding the preset setting, I think it will be ready for Xbox, just like what happened with the Steam Deck when you saw the verified logo, but we don't know. We'll wait because Xbox needs to take. I don't know where the rest of that.
Why is this
Oh,
not happening?
it's off
This is
stream.
StreamYard. It's
Oh, that's the end of the comment. No, that's the end of the comment. So.
Oh yeah, that's the end. So you run out of letters. Okay.
I'll jump to this
Good.
comment.
Yeah.
So if consoles become digital only, I will stop buying one. I'll quit playing games on consoles. Now, it's a
But,
very interesting question or statement.
It's interesting because I remember I started when we had physical copies on the PC, so it was just normal. I went to a shop. I started with Commodore or whatever. There was always physical copies, but at some point, PC was just normal that you have Steam or Epic or whatsoever. So why are we thinking differently on consoles? I don't understand this. Is it just because we used to Steam and not used to have this digital only on the console?
Look, it's kind of not too dissimilar from Netflix, right? I'm in my 40s now, man. So I remember some of the best moments I had was going to the video store on Friday evening with my mom and dad and ordering Pizza Hut, and while it was cooking next door, would go into the video store and look up, look at the videos and pick one off the shelf. And that whole process was like just it was like a night out as a child, you know what I mean? And so obviously Netflix has come in and disrupted that market, and they've just made it all you can eat from home. Obviously that's with the proliferation of the internet and high bandwidth and all that stuff. And so I think it was a natural evolution for this to kind of happen to any kind of format that can be digitally delivered. And look, I would love to say I buy physical games, but the problem is, I'm very fortunate. I built a nice home a couple of years ago, and I have multiple TVs in my home, and they're all good in different ways. Some are big, some are small, some are OLED, and I put a console on every TV. And so for me, before that happened in my previous house, I only had one big TV, one living room, and I always bought discs. But when you switch from room to room, it's such a pain to like sit down, load up. Oh, I forgot the disc. And I know it's like a first world problem, but that frustration of, I've got to get up, I've got to go to the other console. If I turn it on to eject the disc, all the TV and everything turns on. I have to turn it all off. It sounds like it's not that big of a deal, but it is to me. And so I went all digital. And you can certainly see this new generation of gamers, the younger ones that are coming in, they've grown up with digital. That's all they really know. And so it's like cash, at least in Australia. They're just trying to phase it out. They're just trying to, it's the only old generation are the only ones holding it together. And they don't realize how important cash is, because just like digital gaming, once cash is abolished, first of all, the government and the banking industry will control every movement you make. They can switch off your bank account. No more money for you. You can't do anything. You can't move. And second of all, like that's a form of control. You know what I mean? And
Correct.
then they can
absolutely.
And then they charge you a premium on every little tap and go. When you buy a coffee, it's a couple of 0.5% here and there. Same with digital gaming. Once the physical stuff is gone, they control everything.
It's correct. Yeah. You're not allowed to play anymore. You played already 15 hours this game. That's it. It sounds like a bad movie, but that's what is possible.
Yeah. And Packley said the Xbox strategy now is to get people to subscribe to Game Pass and buy the game from their store when the game leaves the service.
I never have done this, honestly, but maybe I'm not all the people, I don't know if this is really happening, but I can see that it looks like Xbox doesn't give a shit anymore that they have exclusives. You know what I mean? They just want to have games everywhere, because why they're bringing Forza out? I don't even know when it's releasing this month or soon.
Yeah, something like that. And sorry, Marcus, go on.
Yeah. And Indiana Jones, I think it's next month, April already.
That's right. Yeah.
For PlayStation.
And this is an interesting follow-up comment from Packley. So consoles are a closed system. There is only one store. As soon as I read that, you really like turned on a light in my mind, because like any monopoly or control on the market, if that actually happens, the government may intervene, because they may force these companies to open up to third-party stores to re-enable competition again. You know, I think that's an absolute.
Actually a good point. Yeah, it's not everything is bad what the government is doing. Most of them.
Not everything, a lot of things.
But now in this kind of things, they're looking at competition, or at least it looks like what they're doing. But you're right. Maybe this is going to happen, because they're saying then, hey, you controlling everything. That's not how it should work.
There's no competition, no free market.
Yeah. Because I mean, they're absolutely right. On the PC, you have not. I'm just bringing up Steam because it's the most known, but you have, of course, websites where you can buy a Steam key even cheaper or whatever, or you go to a whatever, Russian site and whatever, and get it even cheaper, and it works. We don't have this option on the consoles, not at all. And I mentioned this so many times, and you can verify this. If we go to JB Hi-Fi, which is a retail shop in Australia here, and we buy the physical copy, it's for sure $20, $30 cheaper than when you go to the digital store on Sony.
Even at launch.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How can a physical copy be cheaper in a retail shop where they have to pay rent and people? Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, you think about it, right? A digital copy is literally just a download. You just hit a button and it's copy paste from the internet. But when a physical copy exists, there's a whole process that has to go through. The disc has to be created. It has to be pressed. There has to be obviously the image on the disc. Yeah, there's transport. There's the physical case. There's the booklets. There's all this stuff. Yet at launch, a game will be cheaper than its physical counterpart, which blows my mind. It just does not make sense. But I think
that's Sony. That's Sony. Or Xbox
Microsoft's no better. But that's the reason I brought that up was because I remember Microsoft a long time ago were taken to court. I can't remember what. I remember it was because they were only allowing Internet Explorer on Windows.
Oh yeah.
You remember that? It was a long time ago, and they said it was a monopoly, and you have to now open up to other browsers and enable other people to put their products on your operating system.
I think it was not that they didn't. Maybe yes, but there was also the issue that they actually it was pre-installed and you couldn't choose actually and stuff like that. So in Germany you had then a different version. You can choose what if you like to use this or whatsoever. But that's some kind of thing, which is interesting, because I think they never restricted to install any third-party thing, but just the fact that this opens up first, and 99% of the people probably they're buying a laptop will never use something else.
That's true. And that's also what the EU, one thing they did was they pressured Apple to change to USB-C from their Lightning proprietary connectors.
Which I agree.
Everyone does, man. If anyone disagrees, you're stupid. Like there's no reason you should not be able to plug any phone into any cable to get data or just charging. It just makes it easier for the entire population. So I think that was such a good move. It was like there are a few times where the government will intervene and it is a good thing, but most of the time it's not. But comment here from Dan Marcus. So PCs don't just have a single storefront, so the consumer power is a lot bigger compared to console. But even then, PC digital is still inferior in terms of price compared to console physical.
Absolutely. That's the point. You know what I mean? Because I'm getting keys so cheap if you know where to get it. And again, you don't need to. They're worldwide Steam. You know what I mean? There's no restriction, and you have restrictions actually on the Sony stores. So you can't just buy a key in Poland or whatever because it may not work. The key because you're ANZAC region. You know what I mean? That's the problem.
Right. Yeah, I remember my friends and I were all doing this. I think Microsoft blocked it a year ago, but we were basically doing this trick where we would buy, it was 12 months of Game Pass in Turkey, and then you would kind of pay next to nothing, and then you would activate it on your Australian account, and it would actually work. There was this whole conversion process, and then they slowly took it away. But yeah, it's It's definitely interesting. You know, we need to have more competition. But Bender Asri says, yes, the comment is over. My point is that Microsoft needs to take a big step to compete and innovate something new with the Xbox, such as the mini PC. So I think if you remember, Marcus, I did say, in my humble opinion, if Microsoft Xbox are to do one more console, I would dare say it would be their last whack, like bite at the apple to try and take some market share and get some market share back from Sony. My opinion was Microsoft needs to stop coming out with a parity console with Sony. If you go back, say 360, PS3, Xbox One, PS4, Xbox Series, Xbox One X, PS4 Pro, they were like, you know, minuscule differences in performance. You know, there was one just outperformed the other in small metrics. But for me, in my opinion, if Microsoft is to succeed, they must bring out their next console, and it has to be a solid 30-40% more powerful than the PS6. They have to come out with a product that is just better in terms of raw horsepower by a significant margin to get any kind of players that are, because you think how many people are deeply invested into that PlayStation ecosystem, how much software they have purchased over the years. What is it going to take? It's like somebody who's an Apple person like me. What is it going to take for me to leave that ecosystem and go over to Microsoft Windows or go over to Android or something like that? It's a very tricky. So you have to bring out something that's just so cutting edge and so much better than the competition.
But that's the problem. It will not happen. That's what I have the feeling, you know. And even then, you know, if they don't have the games, I don't know. If they don't have the games, then it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Picked up GT7 for $10 during Black Friday, while it was 70 on PSN during the time. Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Now that's if so physical copies. I mean, I have done this in the past, not recently or whatever, but back then it was very, very common actually. And this remembers me also of my time, you know, 15, 16, whatever, you meet at the bloody video shop, you know. So in Germany, it was also a big thing, because you met your friends there, because there was no handy or whatever. You just, okay, after school, we go there. And it was a place to relax and place to whatever, have a drink. It was something like that. And it was normal that you buy a game or you trade 2 or 3 games in and you get a new game. Because there was not much money, you know what I mean? So if this is gone, you can't trade anything. You know, there's nothing. I'm not even talking about collections. You can't collect anything anymore.
Absolutely. Dan said, I've been thinking for years now that the next Xbox console will be their last because it will be another flop. They're exiting from the console hardware market and sticking to just publishing games. So that's probably a fairly accurate assessment. You have to remember, Microsoft at their roots, what are they? A software company. They were always a software company. They'll always be a software company. So they are actually already proving us right by bringing their exclusive titles to PlayStation. They are just becoming more of a software company. They are just building software and putting it everywhere, which is why you're seeing Xbox apps on a lot of the new TVs. You can just stream games now. They're doing it on different HDMI sticks, I think. I think they were trying to get it on Apple, but I remember there was some issue. Apple didn't want third-party stores in their ecosystem. Again, something we were referring to before. So you have to stream it through the browser. You can't just install a native app. So yeah, it is tricky. I do think Microsoft are starting to think with their money a little bit more. I think they realize the generation that they lost, the PS4, Xbox One generation, was the generation they had their chance. You think about it. At the end of the 360 PS3 generation, it was pretty much 50-50. I think Microsoft were in front most of the way, and near the end, PlayStation just took over in terms of sales. It was very, very close. And yeah, that generation, the next one, that was kind of when the real, like, digital was kind of a big thing on the PS5, Xbox One. It was, but this generation was like the generation where it was digital. You know, now they're offering only digital consoles. It was a real big shift. And so, yeah, it's I certainly hope that's not the case, but I don't know. Usually we hear rumors and stuff like that. Phil Spencer has not been very forthcoming, and he typically is. He'll generally say, we're still investing in hardware, but he's been very cagey with his comments. So I don't think they will, man. Like, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
nah, but it's sad, because I remember, Xbox Death of Ring, I had this, I remember this, it was good, but Halo, hey, come on, first Halo game or whatever, come on, it was just a milestone. But it was the same
Absolutely.
with the first Resident Evil on my PlayStation 1, and it was just, it was not even released back then in Germany because we had to use the US. So a friend of mine imported the US version, and with this match trick, you know what I mean? Have you ever heard about
Disc
this?
swapping.
Disc
So
swapping. It was
yeah.
you can play US versions and whatsoever, and that's how we Resident Evil 1. Oh my god, I will never forget this. And you never get this feeling back, because now if they're releasing Resident Evil 10, wow, okay, now number 10, so it will never be the same.
Yeah.
I have the feeling, and I think it's really like that we are very lucky that we grow up in this time where everything was invented, actually. You know what I mean? It's because now my kids, which are cool, iPad. Yeah, wow, cool. Another one.
Yeah, but for them, it's just normal. Like this
It's
little
just normal,
screen, you can look at anything on it.
Yeah.
That's why I think the youth of today is corrupted. I mean, it's just like, not when we were young, we didn't have access to this piece of glass that you could look up anything. You could look up pictures of people. You could look up pornography. You could look up anything weird or wild that your heart desires. Man, if my friends and I wanted to sneak and watch a little porno, we had to go and find like someone's VHS stack, and you'd have to rewind it back to the point that it stopped. So when somebody goes to watch it again, they like can tell you haven't watched it. So it's like, man, the whole world has absolutely changed. But just another comment from Bandar Asri. So the problem with physical copies these days is that they require the internet, just like what happened with Assassin's Creed Shadows. And that's a very, very valid point, man, because even games, a lot of games are online only. You look at games like Destiny. I was a huge fan of Destiny 1. And even if you've got the disc, when they turn off those servers, that game is a paperweight.
Yeah. That's a problem, yeah. There was this huge problem, with GT7 where the servers were down and you couldn't even play a single player game. So that's not good, but that's
yeah. I think even a lot of, say, for example, games that have like a campaign mode still require you to log on. I remember some of the old Call of Duty campaigns. I can't recall where the changeover was, but you could offline with a console, put in the disc, and still play the campaign offline. A lot of the times now, even if you have the disc and you load it up, it wants you to connect to the internet. It wants you to connect to their servers.
I mean, nowadays the problem is you almost need the first day patch to play the game. You know what I mean? Because the game's not ready.
Yeah, they're releasing games that aren't ready. I remember I've put some discs in the past, and there's 100 gigabyte patch day one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, am I just downloading the entire game? Was there just a little like, 1 gig placeholder on the disc?
Yeah. That's what they're doing. And I mean, back then, when we started, you have the Nintendo cartridges. There was no such thing as updating the game because it was on this cartridge. If they messed up the game, they messed up the game. And it hardly happened. I mean, there was some incidents where it can break a game because there was a bug. But back then, the games were in much, much better shape. Nowadays, it's terrible,
I'll let you get to this comment. I'm going to go and grab something and show you guys something I've actually been working on. Give me a second.
Okay. I don't think many people care about being able to play games offline. The thing, physical copies allow for more consumer bargaining power and ability. Yes, correct. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big online playing fan, because I don't know why. It's fun. I play a lot with friends online when they're here on my place, because you have to play online, but I'm not playing online with strangers, let's say like that. But I mean, I like my physical copies because you have control over it, and I can resell it, or I can give it to someone.
Yes.
When a friend of mine bought the PlayStation, I gave him 20 games. Here, have fun. I'm not playing them anymore. So have fun. Give it back to me whenever you can. And that's it. You can't do this. I mean, I don't even know. Is there something like family share or something on Sony or Xbox days?
There is.
Okay, I've never tried this. I mean, that's good. That's good. I do it with Steam and my little one, because it's handy.
I'll show you something
still.
cool. Something I've been working on. So I don't know how, because there's a lot of reflection.
Halo.
So it's something. See if that comes through. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something I've been working on with a guy. I'm going to create a video soon. So what he ended up doing was he created with me. We worked together to collaborate some custom Halo frames. So I've got Halo 1, Halo 2, and basically these are sealed copies. So these are original sealed, and then I bought a second copy, opened the disc, and put that in there. So I've got a full set of Halo 3.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's so cool. It doesn't look very good here on the camera, but I've spent a long time collecting a full set of Halo. Halo is one of my big favorites of all time, and so I will create a video in the future. And haven't mentioned it to you yet, but I want to get the guy who created these with me. He has an actual store, and he does heaps of stuff. He does these for, like, if you have, like, say, a favorite movie, DVD, record, he will put it basically in a frame for you, create a whole poster around it, and send you, like, he'll even do custom stuff. He has a huge store on eBay, but there's some really cool stuff, like video coming up that I created some artwork. So that's going to go all through my gaming room, but looks much better when I'll create a better video about it. But physical, man, the time is running out. Let's say that.
The sad thing is, when I'm looking at this, I had all the games, not at closed or whatever, brand new, but I had all the games plus Xbox and whatsoever. And before we moved to Australia, I sold everything. Because you move to a different country, and you need all the money and whatever. I sold all, and for a choke of a price. You know what I mean? Of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, of course, this was also 2016 and whatsoever it was. But if you think about it, a big mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. Message from here. Danny Coolswag says, "Hey guys, it's 8:28 a.m. here in the UK. Thank you for joining us. Is balanced mode on Assassin's Creed Shadows worth playing? Any benefits in terms of res, or should I just stick to performance mode?" Marcus.
Question is, what PlayStation? PlayStation 5 Pro, I would not use the balanced mode, because on the PlayStation 5 Pro, you literally waste 20 FPS for the same picture quality, in my opinion. Yes, balanced mode has slightly higher resolution, but you have the same RTGI global illumination in the performance mode as in the balanced mode. But PlayStation 5, the base PlayStation 5 would be interesting, because, I mean, you're not getting RTGI in the balanced mode either on the base PlayStation 5. You must play the quality mode, which is a huge disadvantage, because 30 FPS. So PlayStation Pro, I would stick with the performance mode. Honestly, I would stick, because the slightly better resolution what you get, and it's not worth to miss out 20 FPS. That's my problem.
So Dan said, performance mode on anything but the PS5 Pro is arguably unplayable because of how bad the image is, in my opinion, not to mention the lack of ray traced GI ruins the visuals.
I mean, this is, look, I was actually surprised how good playable the 30 FPS mode is on my OLED TV. So it's not like a stuttery mess. They did really a good job with motion blur and stuff like that, but it's still, for a game like that, where if you play on a very high difficult and you need to parry very, accurate, 30 FPS is a no-go, in my opinion. I fully agree that, so the PlayStation 5 version compared, and I did this in my video, compared to the base PlayStation 5 version, it looks like day and night. The RTGI is just such a big improvement, and still 60 FPS. It's perfect.
So how much of these games are you actually playing? Are you just doing your analysis most of the time, or are you actually sitting down and enjoying the games? How often does that happen?
Not in the last month. The last game what I enjoyed to play was really Broken Sword. I don't know, no one heard about this game, but this was one of my favorite point-and-click adventure games, and I bought it on a PlayStation 5, and that's what I'm enjoying.
Okay. So you're not playing, because I remember when you and I first started connecting, I added you on Xbox and I thought, oh man, we'll get on, we'll play some games. I can honestly say we have never played a game together once. You just don't play games. Like I'm typically
No,
on, I
I'm
try to get on
testing. I'm
a
not
couple of
playing.
nights a week.
Yeah.
And I do see you come online, but you're not doing anything. So
Nah, it's
yeah,
I
it is
try to
interesting.
stay offline or not available because
Mm,
it's also annoying when you try, let's say you try to test Call of Duty and you get in a map or whatever, you constantly get killed. So I just
mm.
want to check HDR, leave me alone. Nah, no
Interesting.
time. No. That's really no time, but it's fine. I enjoy what I'm doing, you know. That's good.
That's fair enough. So another comment from Banda Asri. Halo, big fan. You just got a subscriber. Thank you, brother. Yeah, I'm gonna do a proper video. I've got the first 6 frames, so that's like obviously the first 6 Halo games. I'm gonna do the whole set. I managed to get every Halo game brand new sealed, which was something that took me a long time and cost me a lot of money. And it was never anything to sell. And then I met this guy. He does amazing stuff. Maybe when Marcus is answering the next question, I might show you some of his other stuff he does. But I'm going to actually create a video. I'm going to get him on one of our live streams just to help him promote his store because he does really good stuff. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But
I mean, this sounds good, man.
Another question for you, Marcus.
Yeah. No, so again, no, so I agree and disagree because for me it's not perfectly playable. 30 FPS is not perfectly playable, but again, I was very surprised how good the 30 FPS implementation actually looks and feels on my OLED TV. So usually I'm absolutely, oh my God, it's stuttering. It's a stuttering mess. I mean, comparing this with, let's say, games like The Last of Us, 30 FPS mode is unplayable for me. The 30 FPS mode as Assassin's Creed Shadows is, hey, that's not too bad, but still, I prefer 60 FPS. But yeah, yeah. No, but I again, now 30, no, thank you. We are in 2025. No.
Yeah. Man, look, we're in the generation now where most TVs are coming out with 120 hertz refresh rates or more.
And
30
this
FPS
is
not acceptable
and this
any
is
longer.
coming. I'm from Germany, so we used to have PAL. You know, I don't know if you remember. You need to be very old to remember this, but it was not always the same worldwide. So we had PAL and NTSC. PAL was 25 hertz or frames per second.
That's right.
NTSC was 30. So you in the US or anywhere else, you had already an advantage. You know, if the game, of course, ran with 30 FPS. That's a different story because there was also very interesting comparisons that actually the PAL version was stable 25 and the NTSC was always fluctuating between 25 and 30, which was back then a big problem because there was nothing like VRR, you know.
Right.
But I'm coming from 25 FPS. If we were lucky, we had 50 FPS games. Okay, so 25 FPS on a CRT was no problem for me. There was no problem. But then you come to an OLED TV, and my first OLED was the CX. And I turned this on, and I played game, and I loaded my God of War, and I said, what is this? What is broken here? And I came from this 7-year, 8-year-old LCD TV, where you have built-in motion blur because it's LCD, and you just don't realize how bad 30 FPS is. And then you come to a new technology, and you say, oh my God, this is terrible.
Absolutely. While we're here, I just quickly, as I said, I'm actually going to give this guy a proper plug, but I'm just going to share this just to show people. So this is kind of the stuff. Let's get rid of that comment. So he does these frames. So like this was the original frame I saw just here. I don't know if I can zoom in on this, but I did a custom version with my own wallpaper, my own background, my own artwork. He does movies. Yeah, as you can see, he'll break down controllers, put cartridges in there. He can either supply the carts or the games, or you can as well. Does some really cool stuff. So this guy, yeah, he even does like, how cool is that? The Time Crisis
oh my God.
there. Yeah, so that's the actual gun with the game in a frame. Let's see if that'll work.
Oh shit, my goodness, I remember this one.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
he
god.
does some really cool stuff. So it's Retro Gaming Studio. So yeah, if you guys are interested, do check him out. As I said, he's done some really good custom artwork for me. That's him there. Thought I'd just give him a quick plug, but you can reach out to him. He can do custom stuff. Obviously, it costs a bit more, but he's even done like the old Nokias. You can see there. Remember, is that the 3210 or 3330?
3310, I
Yeah.
think.
So yeah, just really cool
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm gonna try and promote him because he's done some
Oh, this
really
is
cool
cool,
stuff on it.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
very cool.
this is really what I would like to have as well. But I would start from zero, and it's so expensive to get into this, and I'm too old for this. But no, I
That's
agree.
true.
So this is really, I really like this kind of stuff. You because it's cool,
You
and it
have
was
to be
our
passionate,
childhood.
man.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? This
Well,
was
that's
our childhood.
just like we were saying. Physical are disappearing. So for me, having literal factory sealed Halo games that probably are very rare these days, in a frame, something that I can look at and just keep just for, my own enjoyment. I think that's really, really cool.
Absolutely.
So Fireball says, I prefer 60 FPS all the time. I find 30% ruins fidelity mode on PS5. Soon as you move the camera, PS5 Pro helps solve that problem by giving the best of both. Yeah, look, I do watch your videos, Marcus, and I do see and listen to what you're doing. But if it comes down to 30 and 60 looks like crap, I still go with 60. I just can't play on 30 FPS anymore. I know you've said that. Is it Game Motion Pro? Does that help with the 30 FPS?
No, not really. It's because it's the same like frame generation. You come from a very low frame rate. What can you expect? It's not as smooth. You know what I mean? So it's
You need more information.
again. I still prefer 60 because first of all, my opinion is that between when you play the game, and that's the thing, we're not talking about using photo picture mode or whatever, because then I would go for the highest resolution ever. But when you play a game, you're not standing still, you move. And then talking about a higher fidelity, first of all, fidelity is anyway a word I wouldn't use, because as soon you're reducing frames per second, you don't have fidelity anymore, in my opinion, because it's getting blurry. You know what I mean? So you don't have anything. So you can't see the higher resolution or the better textures or better shadows because everything is getting blurrier. Yeah, what's the point? You know what I mean? So, and you play the game it's better input, like 60 FPS. It's just better movement. It's better reaction time. That's my opinion. But again, my opinion, I don't mind. I don't care how you play your games. I really don't care.
Yeah, some people I know can't even tell the difference. So I guess it depends what your experience and what TV you have. Oh man, you'd be surprised.
It depends on it depends on what screen you're using. There can be a big difference. Yes.
So Danny Cool Swag said, I decided to shoot for an LG G5 coming from a G3 at the moment. Well, if that's what you've decided and what you've already chosen, man, congratulations. That's a great TV. If you haven't done it yet, and if it's rather a question than a statement, I would say, unless you're going up to a larger size, I don't think it's worth it, man. That's just my personal opinion. I've said this many times before. I've got an 83-inch C1. And when I purchased my G4 83-inch, I was expecting night and day. I mean, black and white, like this completely different experience. And it's brighter. Yeah, there are some improvements, but unless I was buying a new TV for a different room, basically, I wouldn't replace my C1 with a G4 or a G5. It's still got so much in it. It's still such a good TV. It's an OLED, so obviously you're getting all the benefits of an OLED, and it still does 4K 120 if you're a gamer. So for me, I've got a G1 as well, and man, I still think they're great TVs. So like buying TVs every year, unless no option, that's
again,
a
it's not up to us to decide. You know what I mean? Because for sure, the G5 is a better TV than a G4, and if you're happy to spend the money, even you have a G4, then go for it. Go for it, because it's your money, and if you like to do that, if that's your hobby, and you like to do something, that's the same when you like to ride a motorbike or whatever. You're not going for a cheap bike. You buy something which is a proper bike, even you just use it every second weekend, but you like to have I fully understand that.
Yeah,
So go for it.
that's the thing. There's a lot of variables in that, and
Yeah.
Marcus is right. If that's what you love, man, and that's your thing, like absolutely go for it. You know, that's awesome, man. And if you did buy it, congratulations. I'm sure you'll be absolutely wrapped with that. Comment from
Yeah, super chat.
SNK Nostalgia.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much for the super chat, man. That's very appreciated. So he's giving his mum his LG 65 C10 and buying a G5 77. Ooh, now that is a sweet
That's a
upgrade.
big update. 55 and CX, which is okay TV, but I mean, we
You're
know it's
jumping 2
lacking,
sizes as well.
and then 2 sizes. That's a big upgrade. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is crazy. 77-inch. I still think I can easily put 100-inch here, but then
Do
I
it,
need
man.
to
Do
move
it.
the other. Oh, it's so fine. I don't want to put more holes in. There's another actually from SNK. Thank you very much. Distance is also a
Thank you.
factor. Distance in terms of what? Distance?
I'm guessing viewing
Because he's
distance.
writing here also 30 FPS is garbage on OLED, and then maybe
Yeah.
distance also a factor. I mean, absolutely. And thank you very much again for the super chat. And distance is a big problem because that's why, okay, a true story. Here, Nintendo Switch OLED version, okay? Fantastic screen, a little bit greenish tint and whatsoever. It's not the best, but I have no problem to play games on this OLED screen. All the 30 FPS games, fine. As soon as I connect this Switch on my OLED TV, I can't play. I can't play. It's not possible. It's because you have now this big screen. You see all the issues and you see the 30 FPS. I can't see the 30 FPS stuttering on the OLED screen. You can, but you get my point. It's not a problem. You know?
It's a very, very interesting point. So this is like what I try to explain to people who don't have an OLED. When you buy an OLED, it's almost like getting a free graphical upgrade in performance. So the Nintendo Switch is a very good example. I own the original Switch that had the LCD display. Then they brought out the OLED version, and I actually sold it and upgraded to the OLED version. And while there were no graphical improvements in terms of hardware performance or anything, the games looked so much better on the OLED screen. It looked like there was an upgrade. And that's exactly the same thing. When you buy an LCD TV, you get used to it, and then you upgrade to an OLED. Even though the content you're watching is still the same video, still the same stream, the disc, whatever it may be, it's going to look so much better.
It is. I mean, there's no, come on. The LCD screen in the Switch is terrible. Honestly, it's terrible. And the OLED screen, everything is better with OLED, full stop. You know, don't try to convince me, because even full dynamic backlight LCD high-end TVs that don't have the same contrast. It doesn't work like that. You have blooming and this and this and this. No, I don't like it. And I get it. Higher peak brightness, yes, but that's not all. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's not all.
Just
you
a
put
quick
another
question.
super chat in.
Oh,
Thank you
wow.
very much again. Her original TV is a Samsung 40 series 6000 LCD, whatever this is, but 6000 LCD. So the video what is coming is also from a 55-inch UK 6000 LCD, 8-year. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's probably getting released tomorrow. I need to change a couple of things in my editing, what I found. But anyway,
I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah. A question from AP. I would wait at least for a G6 with MLA and tandem. Now, I know LG have put the MLA tech on the shelf because it's too expensive. And I know with the tandem product, they were raving on about how they've able to cut a lot of costs in their production and deliver a better product. While I certainly agree that MLA tech may sit on the shelf until it's time to combine it, I don't think you'll get that with the G6. I think they will put that on the shelf until they're running out of ideas and they need something to improve again. But look, G6, obviously, it's going to be better than G5, just as 5 is better than 4. So...
But yeah, no, I wouldn't even say, with MLA G6, I'm not quite sure, actually. Really not.
I don't
because
think so.
Now they have tandem. They will improve the tandem next year, and there will be no point maybe for MLA. Maybe they're not using MLA at all, or maybe we're wrong on that. But you know what I mean. But I mean, this is always, the thing is, with if people are asking me, hey, should I buy now a 4090 or should I wait, or should I buy now a 5090 or should I wait for a 6090? And my question is always, do you like to have something now? Yes, okay, then go for it. There's no point to wait, because every time there will be something better. You know what I mean? Oh, you got the
Of
latest
course.
iPhone. The next one is released in 6 months. Yeah, and then the next one in 9 months. What are you talking?
Mm,
What do you want? There's no
yeah.
point to wait.
I will say every year up until the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is what I still have now, I upgraded my iPhone, and then I found iPhone got a little bit stagnant with their latest releases. iPhones, they look the same. They were just very incremental improvements. The iPhone 17 leaks look like there's going to be a change. So that's probably when I'll upgrade. But yeah, you've just got to kind of wait till it's the right time. That comment earlier that said he was going from a C10 to a G5, man, that's my
That's
perfect window. Like I recommend if you buy an OLED, 5 years before there's any meaningful update that you're going to go, this is so much better. So
yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great
I mean, the
time.
difference between the CX and even again, the difference between the CX and G2 is visible, but not worth the money what I have spent.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I'm into this stuff, I don't mind to spend the money. You know what I mean? But I would never recommend to someone who has to save money for something,
Mm.
upgrade your TV. No, really wait, because
Yeah.
then you get for your money much better value. But
Of course. Danny Coolswag, I understand what you're saying. Just unfortunately, I don't have budget for anything larger over 65. As I live with my parents, and I've tried convincing them for for a higher size. Yeah, so that's
got
fair
you,
enough,
got you.
man.
Fair enough.
That's
Hey,
fair
come
enough.
on. And don't be like that. 65 inches not a. Hey, come on. We're talking about now 65 inches, the
Mm,
normal size. I mean,
yeah.
that's really the fact now. Unfortunately, that's the fact. 65 inch. That's a 65 inch TV. That's a small TV now.
Mm,
That's a small TV. But it's mind blowing. It shouldn't be like that. I mean, if you have a 65 inch TV and just the budget, hey, what's the problem? There's no problem with it.
Well, it's interesting because he said
Fine.
he's decided to shoot for a G5 from a G3. So if that's the case, man, if you're really pushing for an upgrade, why get the G5 at 65 inch when you could get a G4 on a sale price at
That's actually a good,
77?
yeah. That's actually a good comment, yeah. Because this would probably, I mean, honestly, it would make more sense probably. Because again, the difference between G4 and G5, yes, it is visible. Yes, you have 165 hertz versus 144, which I can't use. I don't use, because I'm not a PC gamer.
Mm.
And honestly, 25 hertz more, I mean, that's not no, sorry, it's 144 you get my point. But anyway, it's not a selling point in my opinion.
Yeah,
The
I'd go for
2000
the
nits
size.
peak brightness, we need to see how it's not like a day and night difference having, let's say, 1000 nits more. It's not. And you need to wait for all the other stuff. What is the downside? About cooling. How long can it hold actually 2600 nits? You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
ever, something like that.
It's hard not to get sucked up into the hype. As I said earlier, I
Yeah,
was considering selling my 83-inch G4 for an 83-inch G5, and unless I can sell it secondhand, I'm not going to. So we'll see how that goes. But obviously, that's something Marcus and I are super passionate about, and it's something, as long as I get the right money, it's a good idea. Like, I can justify it. But yeah, in my opinion, man, bigger is always better. I would dare argue
that's what
going
she
to a
said.
77-inch G4 will be better than a 65-inch G5, in my opinion, in terms of
Yeah.
just your immersion.
Yeah,
and
very, very, very simple. Because when I at your place, 83 G4, and I have here the G4, there's no difference in terms of peak brightness. And I would even say that your G4 is in terms of the general brightness lower than the G4 because of power restrictions and stuff like that. But it blows my mind because you have this big of a screen and all this brightness comes to you. It's a complete different story. So it is better
you have to
to have a bigger
remember your
screen.
10% window on a 65 might be this big, but your 10% window on an 83 might be this big. So the general area of brightness you're going to get is just so much more. So I would always push for a bigger display. So
we have another super chat from SNK. Thank you very much.
My
You
friend.
have
Unnecessary,
a
but
run
we
today.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Soon 4000 nits. We all will be good for a while. Okay. Look, I'm happy to get 4000 nits, but the question is, at what point is it enough? Error says 1000 nits for full screen brightness, which is it's crazy. So no, the screen is not here, but I have a screen with 800 nits full screen brightness, and it kills my eyes when you put because if we talk about full screen brightness, and but I have to admit, when I play games on this 32-inch dynamic backlight and whatever, HDR looks so powerful. You know what I mean? It's crazy, but still it's LCD. So
yeah, and I will say, like, I think Marcus experienced it at my place with the 83-inch G4. Is like me particular because I live with it. When I'm watching a movie, and let's say it's a dark scene for an extended period of time, and your eyes adjust, when the scene changes to something bright and it's an instant change, the brightness of that G4, I often sometimes go, man, it's too bright. So you just have to kind of figure out, like, are you chasing the G4 because it's like, look, it's sick, man. I loved all last year. The G4, you know, I had the best TV, you know, and now it's not the best TV. So, you know, so you kind of have to just try and decide, you know, are you willing to take that like 10% improvement to get a couple or a lot more inches on your display?
Yeah. So Samsung Ultra 25 is apparently 2,500 nits. That's insane. But that it's not actually insane. So what I found is, you know, when I upgraded to the iPhone 16 here, so I can, you know, with my old Samsung S9 Plus Ultra, which of course is an old TV, old phone, outside usage was crap. No way. This one is not a problem at all. I mean, yes, you need nits. You need and 2,500 nits sounds a lot, but not when you're outside. Not when you're outside. But I mean, that's impressive for a screen. Don't get me wrong. And I read that the Ultra Gear watch and the Ultra watch has also 3,000 nits. This little tiny display up to 3,000 nits. Not this
wild.
one.
That's absolutely crazy. You also have to remember, like, I know with my iPhone 14 Pro Max, I don't know what brightness it hits, but if it's in the sun long enough, or if it's bright for long enough, the phone will cap down the brightness. I don't know if you've seen that before. If you say your phone's out in the sun, even if it's face down and it's getting too hot, the phone will actually, you know, there'll be an ABL. It'll even though you crank your brightness to the top, it's still very dark. So, you know, it's only to a certain extent.
Of course. I mean, that's the thing. They're getting really, really hot now, you know. But even you charge them on a normal wireless charger, they're getting really hot.
This one's for you, Marcus. The LG Endgame is going QD OLED tandem now. Imagine that. I don't know if that'll work. Is that possible, Mark?
I don't know.
I'm not sure how the technology stacks if they're compatible.
No, because I don't think in this case, because we're talking about RGB versus WRGB. I think it doesn't work like that. Because I mean, I might be wrong, but no, I don't think so. But I mean, they can of course put the same LEDs behind. But if this works, I don't think so, because they don't need a polarizer. They don't need this and this. That's why the panel uniformity is so great on QD OLED, because they just have the pure LEDs. That's all. Or the OLED, not the LED. You know, that's why.
I also feel that the reason why the OLEDs are coming out with such incremental improvements is because I feel like these manufacturers know we are on the precipice of LCD coming out with something that is going to beat OLED. And they don't want to invest too much and put too much into it, because let's say tomorrow one of these companies comes out with a LCD TV that has individual pixel level dimming, you know, and it's not organic, and they can actually compete with OLEDs in terms of contrast, and it's going to be significantly cheaper, and it may take a while for them to kind of get to that level. But what I'm saying is LCD is really coming hard for OLED, and it's a lot cheaper to manufacture. And I think once LCDs really figure that out, OLED will die, and it won't be too long, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. I mean, so AP is saying, I think the only reason to switch from G4 to G5 is if you just have money to burn.
Or if it's your thing, man. If it's your thing.
Yeah. I mean, you burn money on everything, you know? So as soon it's outside from groceries and rent and stuff like that, you burn money. So it doesn't matter. You know, I'm not telling you what to do.
Yeah, I know people who love to go out and party every weekend and will easily blow $5,000, $6,000, $1,000.
Easy
in a weekend.
You can do this.
You know what I mean? So it's really your thing, man. If, like, for guys like us, we're not big party people. You know, we're family men. So, You know,
We had
once
our party time, you know.
oh yeah, a long time ago,
Oh.
man. But you know, once you're kind of in that stage and like this is the thing you don't mind spending your money on, absolutely. As I said, if
Okay.
my G4 will sell for a reasonable price, I don't mind paying an extra $2,000 to then upgrade to a G5. You know, it's really up to the individual.
Absolutely.
Just quickly before we get to those next super chats, so Dan said technically we need 10,000 nits peak and full screen brightness to fully take advantage of HDR. High full screen brightness is necessary for daytime viewing, especially and for strobing tech. Like, yes, a lot of HDR or some HDR content is mastered to 10,000 nits, but man, I can't imagine how spastic bright 10,000 nits would be. I think it would be more of an encumbrance, like a hindrance, if that's the correct terminology.
Yeah.
Like 10,000 nits blasting in your eyes. Man, I've got these little lights here lighting me up, like for my live stream, and they're so dim and they're burning my eyes. So
Yeah, same here. It's not comfortable, you know what I mean, when you do this. That's what I'm always saying, you know, and even so S95C maximum peak brightness, let's say 1400, 1300 nits, something like that. So it's not much comparing to 10,000, but we need to also consider it's not like a straight line. Okay, so coming from 1,000 nits to 10,000 nits is not 10 times more. Okay, but what I experienced a couple of times, you're on the couch, you watch a movie and you're getting sleepy and you're not just watching or whatever, and then you have a dark scene and suddenly buff bright, and all what you do is you know, you can't enjoy this, you know. Oh my god, this is not good. And you don't you just like to enjoy something. You don't want to stress yourself doing this. And the brighter the TV is getting, yes, if you're concentrating and you're playing and you're full awake and whatever, it's great probably, but
absolutely. From SNK Nostalgia, thank you once again. There's several super chats you've already got in the chats here, man. Very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much. He's saying we should buy TVs that are hard to fit through the door. Man, go check out my channel. I have a video of me installing a 100-inch TV in my house when I was building it. I think it's got like 1.5 million views, which blows my mind because that was probably the laziest video I've ever made. And then I've made videos that have taken me weeks and they have barely got any views. But I would love to get a bigger TV than a 100-inch. I'm like talking to Hisense if they can give me a deal for a 116-inch TV so I can upgrade. But the price is not good. So
yeah.
let's jump.
Yeah.
Go on.
But this is going to interesting. Yeah. If the TVs are going bigger. Yeah, interesting. Because it's going to be a problem at some point.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because I'm selling my TV online, and I actually had a couple of people message me, and we just like a lot of the people were just because I put a photo up of my gaming room, and a lot of people were just sending me messages going, "I don't want your TV, but dope gaming room." And then we had a bit of a chat, and then one guy got into a debate with me about how projectors are better than TVs, and we had a little bit of back and forth, and tried to explain a few things and try to get a bit of understanding, but because he was saying, big is better, where it is to an extent, but OLED is just so hard to beat. But just another super chat.
Unbelievable. Thank you very much. Better ambient light background saves our eyes HDR. Yeah, but so I tend to you shouldn't have too much backlight on. That's the problem. Because it ruins then the dark scenes, that's the problem. It's hard. I know what you mean. But I'm not a big fan of. So I don't even have my backlights on today because
I was going to say something, Marcus. It's embarrassing, man.
No, it's on me. I know it's embarrassing. So now it's much better. That's my. That's why nothing works because of that. No, I mean it looks nice, but that's for show effect. You know what I mean?
It looks cool, nice. Just like the ones behind me. This is a 86-inch TV, nothing special, but. Yeah, it's one of those things, man. Like I think it's called bias lighting, and that's I think the correct term for it. And I think there's supposed to be a specific color temperature you're supposed to have. It's not supposed to be blue or purple. Like it's supposed to be, I think, a warmer color. If I'm not mistaken,
would be the best.
Yeah, and that's supposed to. It's like a optical trick for your eyes. It makes the image appear that it pops better, but even though it's really no effect at all. But it's one of those things.
The problem is what many people don't and I'm very into lighting. So I calibrated TVs for a living at some point, before OLED and HDR started. So, okay. But light is a problem because you just can't put a light on and then you expect you have a better experience, because there is so many factors. So first of all, the color temperature is very, very important. If you like to have, and I'll talk about this offline later because I need to tell you something. But anyway, if you like to have a perfect picture on your screen, and the same, or how should I say, if you don't want to ruin your picture on the screen, you can't just turn on a warm light, because it will ruin your picture. Everything will appear warm. Even the picture is not warm, but your eyes are adapting to this. Stuff like that. And then you have this, what is the English name for the color accuracy, actually? So color accuracy from light, because you can have a very cheap LED light, you shine it on something, and then you see this, and then you see the colors, okay? But you can have also a very, very good one, and you shine it on, and the colors are natural, as they should be, okay? So this is a very big. So my lights here, each of them was $60, because, and I'm still figuring out, and I know that I forgot to change my camera settings because I'm appearing to red, because I was recording this bloody TV and I forgot this. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But those, I choose those lamps for a reason, because it keeps the original colors what you wear when the camera would be set up correctly. But anyway, no one cares anyway on the screen, but just me. I'm anyway, but you get my point. It's just not like you buy a background light or whatever, and then you have a better experience. No, it can ruin absolutely your experience.
Of course. And thank you again for the other 2 super chats from SNK Nostalgia. When the F-22 jet comes out, the F-35 jet started, and I'm not sure what that means. I'm assuming he's talking about some military jets or something. And then he says, listen to Electric Callboy, German band, by the way. I have listened to them. So yeah, they're pretty cool, man. So another comment from Danny Cool Swag. Just FYI, we've got about 25 minutes remaining. So if anyone has any questions, please throw them in the chat. Danny Cool Swag says, it's like buying 4K DVDs these days. Is the money worth upgrading from a Blu-ray? I say to people, if it's your hobby, sure, go for it. If you have an amazing display and it's your hobby, most definitely. And just to add on to that, most of my stuff, yeah, I'll stream, but if it's a movie that's like I really want to watch, I'll either wait and get the 4K Blu-ray HDR version, or if it's a movie I've watched and I really like, I'll go out and buy it and then rewatch it. So, but then again, like, not to brag, but I have a very good audio and TV setup in my home, and for me, it is worth spending that little bit of extra money to get that. When you spend, several $1,000s on a TV, let alone audio, you want every inch of that performance. You know what I mean? You want to see everything that it has to offer. Would you agree with that, Marcus?
Absolutely. And I'm the same. The thing is, so same with audio. You know what I mean? I don't have the same setup or a good setup as you, but I enjoy. I can't even watch the news with the TV speakers. It doesn't work like that.
It's true.
It doesn't work like that. So and I'm thinking about doing a video just about audio setup, which is
get ready for the
very
comments.
Complicated video, because you can't show anything actually, but it is such an underrated topic actually, in my opinion, because we're always just talking about HDR picture quality, but what about the sound? And you like to have, if you see something, and how many times, you watched a movie, and we're not talking about sound effects like crazy, but just the music sets in, and you have maybe 5.1 or whatever. Hey, this changes the atmosphere a lot.
Absolutely.
This is very important.
Absolutely. Another comment. I'm just saying Aero for now. I apologize if I'm not getting your name correctly. He's saying LCD won't replace OLED ever. Maybe another self-emissive technology like QDL, electroluminescent, but not LCD. See, I disagree with you, man, because you've seen what micro LED can do. Obviously, that is prohibitively expensive, and they have basically pumped the brakes on that because they just can't seem to get it cheap enough. But I disagree. I think LCD will be the prevailing technology. They are getting so much better and so much closer. And then you can see it with micro LED. They've already proven it. They can get to OLED levels, improve on the brightness, reduce any risk of burn-in. Once they can get LCD to a better place, I think LCD will prevail. Because you have to remember, OLED, organic, it's perishable. It will eventually, over time, because you're watching it, you don't realize a compensation cycle on an OLED or a refresh cycle, that is actually dimming the TV over time. So if you had a brand new G4 and a G4 that is, like, obviously you can't, but let's say you got a G4 that's 5 years old, and you put them side by side, the new one will be brighter because the TV does do these compensation cycles to burn the pixels down evenly so you don't get any burn-in or static images.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. Do you have any thoughts on that, Marcus?
No, that's what I'm experienced with my CX, because I used to, when I tested some stuff, I used always a certain scene in Cyberpunk. There's I wouldn't say early beginning of the game, but there's this bathroom scene where you have one light, and I'm pretty sure at some point I measured almost 800 nits on this very light, and at some point, after 2-3 years, I was not able to go slightly over 700. You know what I mean? So that this is my experience. Yes, it will happen. But yeah, LCD on the other hand, there's also an aging process, but probably not in this rate as an OLED, you know? And yeah. But I agree. I mean, look, the LCD screens, I mean, they're getting better, but and micro LED, I haven't seen any micro LED in real life, but they will be the same as OLED, or what I'm missing, there's no difference.
Yeah,
because you can turn off the pixel.
Exactly. He's just saying LCD won't have self-emissive pixels. The micro LEDs do have self-emissive pixels. Individual pixels can light up and turn off. So you are getting those black levels, contrasts equal to OLED. But as I said, it's prohibitively expensive. So just check that out. Like, look into it a bit further. Look, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So,
that's the same as OLED. And if you have an RGB pixel structure then at the end, which then I think most likely have, this is just perfect. It's good.
Yeah, so Danny Coolswag says, most definitely it's my hobby. I have noticed it's higher bit rate on 4K DVDs. I think you mean 4K Blu-rays as streaming, as if you won't have if you have a nice home setup with 11.1 soundbar with a Q900D Samsung, most definitely Dolby Atmos. Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like, I've got a 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos setup, and I've got some nice Bowers and Wilkins, a nice receiver, a nice amplifier, and man, the thing absolutely hammers. And yeah, you do notice, well, the 4K Blu-rays, they do come out with fully uncompressed sounds and all those extra formats, and that's why when you stream, they stream them at lower bit rates, because the bit rates are just so high.
Of course. I mean, there are good examples on Netflix as well, but I fully agree. If you like to have the best, you have to get Blu-ray or uncompressed material, but then we're talking about terabytes of data. You know what I mean? That's the problem. But Dan is absolutely correct here. 10,000 nits is not, I mean, it's probably, I would say it's significant brighter than 2000K, but again, not 10 times more. Because again, it's not this linear. I don't know that the formula for this, but I agree with this. It's not like that it will kill our eyes. It should be much, much brighter. But how much? We would need to have I don't know. We would need to have a comparison or whatever. Not sure. And what is this? Rightsy? Hey, how are you doing? I don't think anybody should buy TV before we get 250 hertz. Go future-proof. There is no future-proof with technology, with electronics. No future-proof. Forget about this. There's no future-proof. You know what I mean? Because I bought my Apple MacBook this year. If they're releasing now next year the ultimative whatever I need, that's it. They're no future-proof. I've no idea.
Just quickly, Aero also said micro LED is an entirely another technology to LCD. So my apologies. I use those terms synonymously. LED, LCD TVs. I use them interchangeably. You are correct. So I apologize. You are right. I'm wrong. But yeah, you get my point, is that OLED basically is on borrowed time. There are technologies coming out that will supersede it. And the fact that OLED is organic, it's like basically its main weakness. Until they remove that organic part, I don't think they will survive much longer, in my opinion. And when I say much longer, it could be another 5 years, another 10 years, but I don't think so. I think it'll be much less than 10 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I don't know when we micro LED when we see. Was there any TV on the CES this time? Any prototype apart from whatever?
Well, I know Hisense had that trichroma technology where the individual pixels actually had RGB colors on them. So like, there's all these improvements that. So if you look at the spec, like the whole situation, like OLEDs are improving so incrementally, but the LED, what do we say? Because I use these terms interchangeably. So the LED TVs are improving dramatically, where the OLEDs are improving incrementally. That's kind of my point. It's a race, and
yeah,
LEDs
but there's
are
no.
winning.
I know what you mean, but there's no true LED TV out there, in my opinion. So just micro LED, I might be wrong because it's hard, but just micro LED would be LED, because we're talking about. So for me, all the TVs out there right now are LCD TVs with LED backlight. That's how it looks. That's how it is. We have liquid crystal displays,
Correct.
but with LED backlight. So there's no micro LED would be complete different. Absolutely correct. But I haven't seen any.
Yeah. Well, look, anything that is equal or better, it's all high-end, super expensive stuff. And it's they're still working all that out. But a comment from AP said, Brian said with FOMO he would take Sony's mini LED. They have seen that's coming next year over OLED. Interesting. I didn't hear that conversation, but wouldn't surprise me. And Brian and FOMO certainly have more hands-on and early hands-on experience than pretty much anyone in the YouTube game at the moment. So if that's what they're saying, it must be very impressive. But I remember, like, it's every year there's always an OLED killer. You know, I remember last year it was the Bravia 10, if that's correct. I remember when that was coming out, it wasn't out yet. Everyone was like, man, the Bravia 10, this is it. We've made it. You know, they're going to smoke it. They showed all these demos and everything like that. And people were talking big game. And then it came out, you put it next to an OLED. It's like, look, it's really good, but it's no OLED. So
no, I don't think so. I can't see this happening, especially with the G5 now coming. And we talk. No, I'm not going back. No, there must be really micro LED coming with then that's a game changer probably, but nothing in terms of LCDs. Nah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Any other questions, guys? We're probably at the last.
We did this. Oh yeah, it's already
minutes.
almost 2 hours.
Yeah, we're coming up to the end.
This one, you don't need to apologize. All good. We just
people say that, but don't worry, man. I still say taping instead of because it's like one of these old people things, and I'm going to tape it. And you talk to some young people, they're like, "What's taping it?" Like, they don't realize we used to use tapes.
Now 10,000 nits is not when you stare in the sun. Believe me. I think we're talking about, I don't know, was it 1.6 million or was it 1.6 trillion nits? What we guessing what it is. So 10,000 nits is not even close. So 10,000 nits is nothing when you go out on a sunny day. But the point is that you don't have always the dark and bright changes. You know, that's the problem. Your eyes can happily adapt on a 100,000 nits scene outside because they're just closing the pupils. But having this day and night differences, you know, hell and dark and bright, that's a problem on TVs.
And Aero said quantum dot electroluminescence won't be organic. It will have all the pulses of OLED, like self-emissive pixels, but not the pluses. Sorry, I misread that. But not the minuses. And I heard it will be much cheaper to manufacture than OLED. And again, that's why I keep saying I think OLED is on borrowed time. That's why they're not just giving you everything, because they've got to keep something to continue giving improvements year over year. But I don't know how far along that is. I know I'm hearing about it. I know people are talking about it, but until we see an actual consumer product that's ready to go, you know, we just have to wait. But question for Marcus: how does Marcus's mini LED MacBook compare to his G4 in a bright room? I assume it's better than OLED. By the way, MacBooks use the DCI P3 color space by default, which oversaturates SDR content.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm looking at my MacBook right now, and the maximum peak bright. I haven't measured anything, okay, because I'm just lazy at the moment. But this is bright. But again, we're talking about according to Apple, 1,600 nits, okay, in HDR, which is crazy. But again, we have here 1,500 nits, and that's a much bigger screen. So HDR content looks more impressive on the G4. But I have to say, I had a lot of notebooks so far, laptops. This is by far the best I ever had in terms of display, haptic, feedback, stuff like that. Okay,
The pixel density, man, it's so tight.
That's, you know what I mean. I'm working on 1080p for my business or whatever, 1080p displays, and I'm looking at this and I'm getting cancer in my eyes, really.
Yeah.
And then I go back here. Wow, this is good. Great.
Absolutely.
Great.
Christian from Rimla. So I agree. The improvements on the QD mini LEDs are huge with the latest TCL TVs. Looking at the QM6K and QM7K, the quality picture for the price is hard to beat. That's my point, is that LCDs or LED TVs are so much cheaper to manufacture. One thing I said in the previous couple of previous live streams was when LG was saying, oh, we've removed the MLA, we've gone with this tandem, and there's a huge cost savings there, and it's really good for us. And I was saying, oh, I wonder if by them saying that, if that means they're going to pass the savings on to the consumers this year. No, they did not. So the prices are basically the same every year, which was frustrating for me. And so, you are obviously, they're not competitive yet they are competitive, but they are not equivalent to OLEDs, but they are catching very quickly. So, watch this space. Here's one for you, Marcus.
Oh, sorry. What would be the equivalent GPU on PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 Pro to PC GPUs, in your opinion? That's a good question. I think it was it not like that people tried to tell it's like a 40 whatever equivalent? It's hard to tell because it's also about optimization, you know what I mean? And I think it was it not 4070, what many people said, which I doubt. I actually doubt it, because a 4070 is pretty powerful, and I don't think a PlayStation 5, even the PlayStation 5 Pro is capable of. Maybe it was 4060 what they say, but even that's for me out of the question, to be honest. It's just a different league, you know what I mean? And it's not even, I don't even care about this, honestly, because you buy a PlayStation 5 Pro for a different reason. If you like to go for the best graphical options, then you have to buy a PC anyway with a high-end graphic card. That's my opinion. If you really like to go this track, then PC and 5090. But if you just like to enjoy a game without any hassle, then console is the better choice. That's anyway. So you're not buying a PlayStation 5 to get the best graphical fidelity out of it. It's a different thing.
And look, the only thing these consoles really have going for them is because the GPUs are the same, well, essentially the same on the Series X or the PS5. Obviously, PS5 Pro is different. They can optimize those games so heavily to that graphics card, so they do get as much performance as possible out of those graphics cards. So that's kind of their main plus, I would say. But I'm switching over to SNK nostalgia. So what do you think about HDR10 Plus? Is it a dead format? So I'll quickly comment on that. So as I said in the past, I had the 8K Neo QLED Samsung 85-inch. It failed. Video on my channel if anyone wants to check that out. And look, basically I was running HDR10 most of the time because any Dolby Vision format will fall back to HDR10. I never really had much experience with HDR10 Plus until near the end where it failed. Then there was like a few videos coming out with HDR10 Plus. I think Hisense, maybe TCL, have started now supporting HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision. In a total overview, I think HDR10 Plus is the better format because it's open and anyone can use it. But I just think Dolby Vision have too much of a hold on the market. I would like to see HDR10 Plus prevail because of those reasons, but I don't know if I know there's a lot of Dolby Vision formats, videos and games coming out, but I don't know. Are there any HDR10 Plus games available?
There are actually more HDR10 Plus games than Dolby Vision games.
There you go.
And we're talking about native support, because that's what people always forget.
That's on PC, right?
Yes, that's just PC, and you need a NVIDIA GPU. But people always think that just because you can play on the Xbox in Dolby Vision, that this is really Dolby Vision. It's not. There's exactly one game on the Xbox that's Halo Infinite, which is in native Dolby Vision, and that's it. We have more HDR10 Plus games like Cyberpunk. What was the very terrible online shooter game I played? I forgot. And Red Dead Redemption has now HDR10 Plus, which is not. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's the same crap as with Dolby Vision, because it's not mastered in HDR10 Plus. It was never meant to it. So it's just using this format now. Okay, so it's
just go on, Marcus.
No. So for me, Dolby Vision gaming and all this kind of stuff, also HDR10 Plus is dead, because no one is actually using it in the correct way. It's
Aero said HDR10 Plus is not a dead format. Netflix just announced they will adopt HDR10 Plus until the end of the year. Any of their Dolby Vision movies will also be available on HDR10 Plus. I think that's great. As long as HDR10 Plus is better, I think that's the way to go.
If you're just adapting this, then nothing will change.
At least it's an open format. You know what I mean? Anyone can use it.
I know it's fine, and I'm pro open. You know, why would you use Dolby Vision and pay someone if you can use HDR10 Plus? Because from a technical point of view, Dolby Vision, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only benefit what Dolby Vision has is actually the 12-bit. If ever we would have 12-bit panels, but that's that's the only thing. But
Danny Coolswag, do you think the PS6 will release next year or 2027? What's your prediction? So
it will be released with GTA 6.
I don't see it 2026, simply because you think about it, Sony has just released the PS5 Pro, and those people who have purchased that console will be very annoyed if within 1 year or 2 years that console is already inferior and there's something better. So I think they're going to try, and you have to think the amount of R&D they've put into this console, they're going to try and recuperate as much of that that money back. They're going to try and ride that out into the sunset. So look, I would love to see a new Xbox in 26 or 2027. Obviously I can't say for certain, but I think it's unlikely. What about you, Marcus?
I don't think so. But because you're right, because people bought for a lot of money, a PlayStation 5 Pro, and then 2 years later, after the release of the Pro, there's a PlayStation 6. This would be, but on the other hand, I mean, what can you do? I mean, look, and the Pro is just a beta test for the PlayStation 6 anyway, in terms of PSSR, in terms of other stuff, using like that. So it's hard to tell, but I hope that we see GTA 6 before the PlayStation 6. You never know.
Coming down to the last few questions. So anyone in the chat, if you'd like to post any final questions or comments, would love to see them and get to them.
Another super chat from SNK. Thank you very much today. Really, you understand Dolby versus DTS sound good business. Yeah, okay. But I also that's always the thing. So thank you very much for the super chat. But I really would like to do proper blind tests. You know what I mean? At some point, because I dare you that you can. Because that's the problem. We're talking about Netflix is adapting HDR10 Plus. All what they're doing, you really think that they remastering their own series? No, all what they're doing is they're putting on top of the Dolby Vision format a HDR10, whatever, and now you can use it in HDR10. Nothing will change in terms of HDR. The only thing what you see in the difference is because maybe your TV has different picture settings when it's using HDR10 Plus, and then you think, oh, that's better, or that's actually worse because it's darker. So no, the same with DTS and Dolby. Sometimes it's exactly the same information. All what they have done with DTS is improving the bass a little bit. That's all.
It's from my understanding, Dolby Vision HDR, they it's particularly in movies, it's on a scene by scene or a frame by frame basis. So for them to go and remaster something in HDR10, that means they would have to spend a lot of time and resources to go back and remaster that movie.
No, you're actually a little bit wrong. So, but
Okay.
so because we're talking about dynamic metadata in Dolby Vision and also HDR10 Plus. So this, from this point of view, it wouldn't be probably a big problem. But I doubt that the most of the stuff what we're seeing is really in Dolby Vision. I doubt it. I really doubt it. Just because the Dolby Vision logo pops up, that doesn't mean that it was original mastered or recorded in Dolby Vision. I mean,
That's
maybe
interesting. Yeah.
nowadays in 2024, 2025, yes, with newer cameras and stuff like that, they have now all, even this bloody iPhone has Dolby Vision. It's just a very, easy form or quick and dirty form from Dolby Vision, but it's recording in Dolby Vision. But all the other stuff from back then, there's no Dolby Vision. It's just HDR and the Dolby Vision logo pops up. That's my opinion.
I've got old movies that I own, and I've downloaded copies of them that have Dolby Vision, and I'm talking like the movie Hackers with I think it's back in 1990s something. I don't know if you've seen that movie Hackers. It had Angelina Jolie in it. One of my favorite movies growing up. And I downloaded a version that had Dolby Vision, and I'm like, I don't know how much Dolby Vision is really in this movie.
No, because
it's so old.
I'm watching. I love Seinfeld. I'm watching Seinfeld on Netflix, and it's in Dolby Vision. Don't tell me this was ever recorded in Dolby Vision. It's
Hack
not.
the planet. Hack the planet. Seeing those comments.
Hack the planet. Okay.
And another super chat from Nostalgia, Sega Dreamcast 2, man. That would be.
I would buy it immediately. There's no question to ask.
Yeah.
If Sega puts out a new Dreamcast, oh my God, the games from Sega back then. Come on.
Yeah, Sega in their heyday, I really feel bad because the Dreamcast was such a good console, and in my opinion, all Sega had to do was put a DVD drive in that Dreamcast, and the whole picture would have been different. The reason the PS2 was so popular was because of the DVD drives. They were so expensive at the time, and I remember it wasn't much more to buy a PS2 than DVD players at the time. So yeah, I still have a Sega Dreamcast in my cupboard here. I'm keeping it. I'll never get rid of it. I've got all the peripherals like the fishing rod and all this stuff. It's such a good console, man. So yeah, it was a bit of a missed opportunity. But look, we've just scratched 2 hours, man. So do you have any final?
I think before you all go offline, I think next time we start the stream a little bit later, if this is okay with you as well, because I have the feeling we're starting at a too early point, and the people just starting to come in now. But I might be wrong on that. I'm happy to start the stream later, maybe an hour later or even 2 hours later. Don't mind, because the more people in the chat, the better. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. And gives us great questions to respond to.
Yeah, correct. Because now we have much more viewers than an hour ago. And of course I understand maybe time is I don't know what time is it at your place where you're watching right now, So I don't mind.
Somebody just said Europe is just waking up. So our European viewers, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Europe is waking up, correct, yeah.
And Nostalgia, man, you should be smoking a cigar, brother. You just, I don't know if I could send you one of these, man. They probably wouldn't get through. I don't know. There'd be a bit of tax on that. It's not a cheap game to play. What a great stream, man. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining us. As the kind of title was After Dark, Marcus and I had a chat when we were together. We had a drink outside, and I said to Marcus, bring a drink, bring a smoke, and he brought a cup of water. So he didn't keep up his end of the deal this time.
I'm not smoking, first of all. I used to and will never do this again. And I can't smoke a cigar here anyway. And I forgot to go to the bottle shop, okay? So not forget, it was not possible. Anyway, but next, I promise I'm getting better, okay?
Next time. But I'm already trying to talk Marcus into coming to my place for a third time to do some more videos and stuff like that. Mind you, I still have, I think, 4 videos in the pipeline with Marcus and I together that will be coming up shortly. So for those of you, most of you who are coming from Marcus's channel, if you would be generous enough to come and check out some of my content or subscribe to my channel, it really helps. I really enjoy Marcus coming down here. We have a great time. So looking forward to getting you back here again, Marcus. So that should be fun.
Yeah, but there's not much you need to do.
We have such a good time, man. Yeah, just two nerds geeking out. But thank you everyone for the comments. Thank you for people who are helping us with getting the correct information when I am saying something that's not correct or not specific enough. So thank you very much for that. And any other closing thoughts from you, Marcus, before we wrap this up?
Not really. No, not really. Not just. I think next time we start a little bit later. If this is because I think it makes sense. If
Yeah.
people don't have early time, then we start just later. I don't mind, and we keep it. That's fine. We keep the same title every time, because why not? We don't know what we're talking anyway. What the topic is will be. And I don't
Yeah.
want to steer in a certain direction all the time, because
Of course. Yeah. One thing I really enjoy is like when you meet people who are in the same kind of have the same interests and hobbies as we do, and I'm assuming most of the people in the chat here have those same interests and hobbies. I'm sure in your own personal lives it's very difficult to find others to have these conversations with, whether it's PC, gaming, TVs, especially TVs. Man, I don't know anyone I can talk to about TVs, but yeah, it's really good stuff. So for all of you that are joining us, thank you very much. Like, we really appreciate it. And for all the super chats, while they're really unnecessary, but obviously whoever they go to, we do appreciate
Thank
them.
you,
That's
Danny.
very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Then we see you guys next Wednesday. Of course, Sunday with Ariel, but that's a complete different time than for some of you.
It gets hardcore, man. Ariel's no joke.
No, he's now getting his 50/90, He's getting his 50/90. He told us,
Absolutely.
oh my God.
Him,
maybe
man.
we
So
shouldn't.
happy for him.
Maybe it's
I wasn't going to say anything, but you did. So there you go.
We shouldn't say
that's out of the bag.
Now, okay. Anyway, okay. It's time to say goodbye and good night, and we see you next time. Okay.
See you on the next one. Thank you very much. God bless.